Hello everyone and welcome back to the Slow Car Salon, and I welcome you now to my F20B swap series. We're going to be putting this motor in my 1991 Honda Accord wagon that I recently got, and this is going to be kind of a video series similar to what I did for the Celica and the 1UZ, but with a little bit less trailblazing. Same style, same kind of level of detail, although I'm not necessarily going to be figuring things out along the way because many others have done it before. I'm just going to show you my way of doing it, my flavor, with my parts and general setup, because my wagon is going to be a dad wagon in the end of the day, but I wanted to have a fun motor for it. So, that's enough talk. Let's get started. Oh hey, new camera. Alright, so I'm going to take you through this motor. This is the F20B, currently without its valve cover because it's out for powder coating right now. And essentially what this is a JDM only engine from the Civic Tornado or Accord SIRT. It's not a Civic, sorry. Point is, it's a JDM only engine. Essentially, it's an H22 with some iron sleeves, which makes it these very, very popular for boost, but I'm not going to be boosting mine. I like the fact that it has iron sleeves, maybe a little lower displacement, but higher revs for the sakes of the wagon, because the iron sleeves at least tell me I'll have some additional durability, which is very cool. Now, I've already got all of the timing cover stuff off, so I could just kind of take a look at what was going on. It looks like it already has some timing belt replacements, but maybe not the best brand, because I have no idea. I've never heard of Evergreen before. It does not seem to have an oil cooler, at least or the oil warmer, whatever you want to call it, that comes off of the coolant tube here. So just has the heater output. I think it has the standard intake manifold. And interesting is I got the IACV delete. I need to source one of those. I just realized I had an EGR block off plate, but I got a different one for it. And fuel rail is off for right now because I was checking some things. The TPS is broken, so I'm just going to make sure I can swap that. And I threw on I already had one of these. It's an OBD2A distributor. The 8+2 pin adapter is needed for this, plugged into the Accord here. But it is an internal coil, kind of like the TD31 that's in the Accord now, which is cool because there's no other really coil mount on this motor. I think you can add one from a 5th gen Prelude, but then it hangs out sort of over here, and I don't know if the harness is going to be good for that. Oh, of course. Now here's the best highlight, I think, for this motor is that stamp there. It says PCB, and that means, as far as I can tell, it has the Type S cams, which is better for top end. I think all of these brackets that it has should work with the accessories on the car already, just because this came out of a CD Accord, and I got to put it in a CB Accord. So hopefully that should all line up quite nicely. Let's go take a look at all of the parts that I have. This is just here a box of spares. There's a T bracket, an alternator, starter motor. To start, I got a 4:2:1 header exhaust manifold set from God Snow. Yeah, real reputable, but it looks like it's actually pretty well built. When I compared it with a Greddy header that I had, it actually seemed kind of like it was made of same or similar materials, or at least similar material thickness. Got a box here of essentially every OEM O-ring or seal or gasket that's like critical, things like the oil pan or the O-rings for the coolant crossover pipe here. I've got an ACT Streetlight flywheel, a South Bend Stage 1 clutch, which is essentially just an exidy stock clutch with a different pressure plate. I run this setup in my Prelude, and I know how it feels, and I'm quite happy with it already, so no need to, I guess, change what I'm already familiar with. This, I just kind of threw in a bunch of stuff for fuel and air. I have also off my Prelude, a oil temp and pressure sensing sandwich plate, which will connect to an innovative gauge, because I like to monitor those things. The fuel filter, an extra thermostat, because I'm going to replace that, spark plugs, extra ground wires, the VTEC wiring, my distributor, adapter, let's see, there's the EGR plate, EGR gasket, somewhere in there. Next up, I guess this is all interior stuff, which I'm going to get to later. These are steering, suspension components, so I have, I think, just a bunch of polyurethane bushings for the sway bars, some new steering rack boots, because the ones on the car are torn. And in here, which I think maybe the more special stuff, which I'm quite unfamiliar with, but I'm going to run because I didn't get to try this last time. There's my replacement TPS. These are from Rywire. These are injector adapters that will plug into my RDX injectors and then plug into the standard engine wire harness. And all of that will be going together, of course, after rebuilding the injectors. I can toss those there. After rebuilding the injectors with new basket filters and seals and things like that. Because all of that is going to be connected to this Roscoe Racing fuel rail kit. It has all of the adapter, sleeves, spacers, banjo bolts, and I guess hardware as well, so that I can bolt this to my F20B. Very cool. And then in here I kind of grouped everything from like cylinder head and transmission stuff. So I have some VTEC solenoid seals, gaskets, exhaust manifold gasket for the downpipe, a genuine spoon oil cap, which will be the, I guess, the cherry on top. Got an exhaust manifold gasket, the Honda thermal intake spacer, the phenolic heat shield, extra valve cover gasket, and then here is just a new clutch master and slave cylinder, and a Fat 4 Customs shift linkage kit, and a clutch kit from Valex Racing as well. In here, I think, is even more exciting, aside from the oil pan gasket, is all the timing related components, water pump, spark plug wires that came on the engine, but also most importantly, my P28 ECU that has a Honda S300 V3 already installed in it. That came out of the Prelude. I put a P05 ECU and VTEC converted it and chipped it, and runs great because I already had an H23 tune on it. This still has my H23 tune, so honestly I might just have to adjust a few fuel parameters and it should run okay open loop, but then I do want to get it tuned to run closed loop with a wideband because I just want to be able to monitor all of those things, because I live somewhere now where they have a lot of elevation change. I'm already at high elevation. It could go higher, it could go lower, generally higher. And then just a box full of radiator hoses and heater hoses, things like that. Under here are some replacement motor mounts. I already redid the torque mount on the front of the car because for whatever reason it came with a stage 3 clutch, and as a result it was very jarry, shaky, and it had a polyurethane torque mount and traction bar and solid mount, this and that. Yeah, not amazing, made the car feel awful, so I already went in there and replaced the tension control rods and subframe and torque mount with a standard one. So I'm just going to do standard mounts because we need comfort and I don't need the car to be jittering around while I have my kids napping in the back of the car or whatever. And then I also bought this from the group, the Facebook group. I guess one of the many Accord Facebook groups now that I think about it. It's just a replacement AC compressor. It was already brand new, guy used it for a few months, and then I had it for sale. So this one is needed because the one on the car already is, I don't know if it's seized or whatnot, but it certainly doesn't sound amazing when I turn it on. So anyway, that's what's going on with the part situation. So it's all pretty basic stuff as far as swap is concerned. Like, I got all of the conversion things that I needed to make this happen. Just the new things that I have include the fuel setup, the injectors. Just I've got to put some different parameters in the ECU probably. But pretty much everything that's here I've already done once on an H23A VTEC from my Prelude, which rips and I'm very happy about. So I guess I'm curious to see how this will fare and how it will feel different. Maybe a little less torque. I don't know. I'm really curious though about this IACV delete, or what I need to do about it. I guess another thing to point out is on the intake manifold. This already, because this engine came out of a previously running car, the IAB plate has already been gutted and plugged and all that good stuff, and I did that on my Prelude setup as well, so I am glad to see that because I have a P28, not a P75, that would have the control for the IAB, and I just end up deleting it anyways. So anyway, that's an overview of pretty much everything that's going to go into the engine, and I don't know, there's not really much else left to do other than get started. Alright, let's get into the engine. We're just going to start on the timing and water pump side and start tearing things apart. I've got some brackets cooking away in my ultrasonic cleaner over there to get some grime off. So yeah, we're just going to tackle, let's see, starting from the front, we're getting the timing belt, the balance shaft belt. It already has a billet manual tensioner, which is awesome, which means I don't even have to touch that. We'll get to that. We'll take the oil pump off and do all the seals, do the cam seals, and the front main seal behind the pulley. I also just realized that I don't have a crank pulley. I have obviously the timing gear, but not the actual crank pulley that will connect to all the accessory belts and things like that. So I realized I just gotta quickly order that. But we'll take care of all the seals up here. I even have an O-ring for the dipstick tube as well. So let's tear into it. Alright, just before I have to flip the engine over, because that's the only way I can get to pulling off the oil pump here, because I got to drop the oil pan, I just want to point out that I had a little bit of difficulty getting the pulley off of the Woodruff key, and also this little walk blocker for the balance shaft belt, because, interestingly, this is the balance shaft crank pulley. There's like a little lip right here at the very back of the Woodruff key slot. So the way I handled that was with a very, very fine file going very slowly, just to not mar or nick anything that I didn't need to. So a little bit of work with that, and I was able to knock this ridge down and slide the whole thing out. I did have to get some penetrating oil to kind of loosen things up here, but the whole thing wasn't seized or anything, which is nice, so it just slid straight off, which is very nice. So yeah, at this point I just need to get the engine flipped over, as I've got all the timing components off, sans the cam gears, which I will do once I get the engine back over, because I'm going to do the cam seals. So we'll get the oil pump off, the pickup tube, sorry, the pan, pickup tube, then the pump off. Okay, got the oil pump off, so I'm going to start reworking that. I got all of the parts I need, OEM parts, over here that will help me reassemble everything. I got OEM balance shaft seal, an OEM front main seal, OEM, what is this, the balance shaft gear housing? Yeah, balance shaft gear housing seal. This O-ring, actually, this will probably come a little later, because that's for this O-ring here on the crossover tube for the coolant that goes into the back of the water pump. I guess this is, yeah, the O-ring for the other side of that. Small dipstick tube seal, and most importantly, the oil pickup tube seal, because they tend to get very crispy after living there underneath in a bath of hot oil. So that's all going to get thrown on. The oil pan itself, yeah, I'm glad I'm going to be getting rid of it, because it's disgusting and dented, and I dented it more trying to get it off because it was glued to the freaking engine in a layer of RTV, which I don't honestly think is right. Maybe you can do it with Honda Bond, but I think this is just regular gray RTV. I've used Honda Bond for my Honda motorcycles when I put the engine and oil pump and case halves back together, which makes sense, but I think on the oil pan here you have so much compliance and flex in the flange of the steel pan. It's like you can totally use a gasket. You can also get one that has like little dimples in between the bolt holes, which helps with the sealing. So far haven't had an issue with that method in my Hondas so far. So with that, I'll get to resealing the oil pump and go from there. Also, I want to point out that I was looking at this oil pump wondering, like, is this aftermarket? Like, is it OEM? What is it? Because I saw this little eagle symbol right here and was like, oh, is this oil pump made in the United States? Is that like Honda of America manufacturing stamp? No, it's Yamada for Yamada like oil pumps, and they are the OE for the Honda oil pumps, as it turns out, which is very cool. So, learn something every day. Okay, small snag. I forgot to buy that O-ring seal for the oil pump as it mates to the motor. I don't want to proceed with the old gasket. I want to get the new OEM one. They're still available and cheap. I just have to wait a couple days or see what the dealer can do to get me one sooner. So instead, I'm just going to focus efforts instead on that water crossover pipe in the intake manifold area, just to get a little bit more ahead here while I can. I also have the opportunity, while the engine's in this orientation, to get the rear main seal housing off and redo the seal itself. I anticipate it's going to be another case of everything's being slattered in gray RTV, so that's going to be really fun to clean up, but such is the case with used motor, I guess. Alright, so while I got things cooking in the ultrasonic cleaner, I'm going to start tackling the intake manifold gasket, which looks like being this green paper material. This was the original one, and it really sucks to get off because it's like both stiff in some parts and very much adhered to the mating surface here of the cylinder head, so gotta spend some time to get that cleared off. But once it's off, I'm gonna be pretty happy to have that Honda phenolic gasket in place instead. So, gotta get to it. Alright, many developments happening here, aside from poking my finger at some point. I pulled apart the thermostat housing and found that the Prelude thermostat that I have is clearly not right because it is this size, and the one inside thermostat housing is that size. It's much bigger. It almost looks like it's S2000 or like Legend size, if memory serves. So I'll have to figure out what that is and make sure I can get a new seal for it. On top of that, I then also realized that I also forgot to order this O-ring for the thermostat housing that goes from the backside of the water pump, or water pipe rather, to this bung here on the motor. So 2 gaskets I still got to order, and 1 thermostat to figure out, I guess. I also ended up replacing my oil pressure switch, and yeah, that's about it. Put the intake manifold back on with the Honda gasket. Also discovered my little IAT sensor, which is what I believe this is. It's broken. Had a spare already. Very nice. So I'm going to throw that on. But yeah, just got to order and grab a couple more things before I'm really able to move on and really make some progress here. I guess, meanwhile, last thing I can do is put on my oil filter sandwich plate for the temperature and pressure sensors that I'd like to run. So I guess I'll finish up with that and then get my parts. Okay, couple quick developments. So I did figure out what this thermostat is. It's just simply a H22 thermostat, which means this little one that I got is probably F22 or H23A1 related, just because it's so small. That's my guess is, because I think I bought it for the Prelude back when it had the H23A1, and then I never ended up using it. So that's an easy part. Get it from the dealer as well, along with the O-ring back here. This IAT sensor I replaced, and I ended up just using these sort of button head Allen screws, about of a similar length, because despite having the right JAS screwdriver, which as you can see fits amazingly inside of the OE screw, it's just these things, I guess they just get seized over time or just really stuck in there. And even using this proper bit, which you can get these bits, even using the proper bit, they still strip. So I just had to impact screwdriver it out, sort that you hammer and it drives it in the opposite direction. So that ended up getting it out. Put those button heads in, so that way I can use an Allen key anytime I need to get them out. So a little bit better access. So that's in. Manifold's on. Got my sandwich plate here for the oil temp and pressure sensors on. Got that torqued down. Realized I don't have an oil filter, so I got to go to not only the dealership but the auto parts store so I can get a good Wix. And yeah, that's about it. Okay, back from the dealership, ordered the parts that I needed. That'll all be there tomorrow, so obviously the premium for next day is pretty steep, but, you know, I was trying to avoid that for the most part because I thought I had ordered everything I needed ahead of time, but no matter, because at the very least I got a few things while I was there, including some OEM power steering fluid and a few quarts worth of the good stuff. Honda MTF for the transaxle. If I end up swapping the fluid there, getting the proper transaxle for this motor here, because I don't have the T2, T4 LSD transmission currently. Probably just going to use the Accords transmission, even though the gear ratios aren't quite correct. Most importantly, I got an OE filter, so I can throw that on. Because I figured I'd get a Wix, but I figured while I was at the dealership I can get the 15400 PLM AO2 filter, which are great, cheap, easy to get. So I guess in the meanwhile I will attack a couple more seals. I can do the other side of the thermostat case. I can do the cam seals and also the rear main seal, since I have access to that right here. Got to take a few bolts out. It's a little bit tight access, but it's still doable, because then I can take the seal housing out and then put it on afterwards. while I was running some of the parts, such as the front water outlet and the rear main seal housing through the ultrasonic cleaner. Got everything mostly cleaned up back here. Still working on the oil pump side. I'm going to eventually take off the VTEC solenoid here to do the seals as well. And yeah, then I guess just work on the intake manifold. I figured since some stuff just showed up, I'm going to go ahead over here and put a new seal inside the distributor and put the new cap and rotor on as well. I already replaced the O-ring on the opposite side, on the camshaft side, but I think that's still okay because I don't think it was ever leaking. As you can see, it's kind of weird here, but the compression limiters on my distributor cap here were, you can see they're sticking out of the housing a little bit, but then on the opposite side, they're not flush with the ears on the distributor cap. So I don't know if that was just a manufacturing error or what, but I got a different brand distributor cap anyway. So also there's a crack in the ear up here as well, so can't have that. Anyways, I'm gonna tear this up, put the new shaft seal in there, new hardware, and that should be good to go. Alright, got the distributor partially apart to take the shaft seal out. It was very crispy, difficult to get out. I just used some little hook tools here to slowly work its way out, and yet the seal flew up and hit me straight in the face, which was fun. So I'll get that new seal in. We'll see how well it works because, yeah, unfortunately that seal got really toasty, and then, yeah, that shiny part is, yeah, that's a groove from the seal. So yeah, I don't know how well that's going to seal. Just like run my fingernail across it, it is definitely, there's a ridge there. So at least it shouldn't be too hard to take a look at this all again if I need to. Try to be careful with some of the wires in there as they go pass into the distributor housing. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just going to toss that new seal in there, press it down, reassemble, and then we should be good to go. Okay, there you go. Distributor rebuild in record time, or reseal in this case. I am surprised how just self-explanatory rebuilding this thing was. I mean, it's pleasantly simple. I'll just walk you through it really quick. There's a little circlip right here, a pin that goes through this ear, and then that basically releases the shaft on the back side, and then you're done. On the inside, you take the cap off, you remove some connections for the coil, 2 bolts for the coil comes out, and then there's 3 bolts for a plate that holds in all of the sensors. That can be slid out carefully because there's more magnets down here, more sensors that the wiring is attached to up here. So you have to carefully pull it up, slide it, and put it off to the side because you just can't yank it out. But once you do that, and with a little encouragement by pushing the shaft up and out of the distributor housing with your finger, then you have the shaft out, and then that's how I was able to get to the seal, which, there's your part number. Yeah, get to the seal, and then basically replace it, reassemble. I did not use a new O-ring for the backside just because it was already so new, so fresh. But you got a new rotor, new cap, and then yeah, this should be good to go. Okay. Few little love taps with a very small hammer, and using my old rear main seal, I've put the new rear main seal in the rear main seal plate, and there's the part number for it as well. So just got to finish maybe a little bit of work cleaning up the mating surface here, just get some alcohol over it, and then I think for this I will just use Honda Bond to then bond this to the engine, just using a very thin layer. Since it's aluminum to aluminum, I'm going to just use a very thin layer of Honda Bond on this, and then slide the whole thing onto the back of the engine.
1 day later and a small mortgage payment later, I have all of the rest of the seals that I need, minus one over on the floor here, to reassemble this engine. Got the oil pump seal here, have the thermostat housing seal there. We have something I didn't necessarily order at first, didn't think I was going to replace these, but I figure they're available, they're decently cheap. These are the backside of the head camshaft seals, the cam plugs, I guess, for the backside of the cylinder head. And then the new OEM thermostat, P13 thermostat, so it's the correct size and temperature. I know it came with one already in the backside of the thermostat housing, wherever that went. It's somewhere on the ground here. Oh, never mind, it's over there. I could probably still use that, but I'll just keep it as a backup, and then I know I have a new, fresh OEM one anyways. So with that, let's get reassembling. Okay, got some more of the timing gear back on as I got the oil pump on. Put one of the balance shaft gear housings in. I just had to put a 6mm dowel in to lock it into place so that the marks here are aligned, as you can see. Here's a notch, another notch, and a divot of two different sizes, so you know it's correct. So that's currently locked in place. This balance shaft has a mark, and then there's a mark here on the side of the oil pump, so that's all good. Threw on the timing gear, torqued it all down. Also did the rear main seal housing over here, all torqued down, nice and clean. I just want to mention that I did indeed use Honda Bond, the good stuff, for the gasket for the rear main seal, as well as the oil pump. Since it's metal to metal, it's a very, very thin coating, because this stuff is very much going to glue your parts together if you're not careful or use too much. Definitely do not use that for the oil pan, because yeah, then you end up with situations like having the whole thing RTV'd and it's hard to get off, or it doesn't seal properly. The only points you need to silicone over are the gaps between the rear main seal housing and the block, and the oil pump and the block, two sides. So just 4 points. That's it. So it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. I'm going to also just point out that for the thermostat housing here, got the O-ring, going to pull this new old one out. Now I was looking at the old thermostat as well as the new thermostat, and you can see they're constructed a little bit differently. I'm just going to line them up here. Yeah, you can kind of see how the plungers are held in place and the differences between them. Luckily, I went and got the OEM one because this one looks to be aftermarket, so I got that. New seal. I'm going to get this all thrown together. Put the thermostat housing all back together and basically get this end of the engine all buttoned up. All right, well, got the oil pan on. I'm about to flip the engine over, but I just wanted to quickly explain that the oil pan that I bought was the wrong one. The oil pickup in this is deeper, therefore you need the deeper oil pan. Luckily, I already had this one that I had in storage that I pulled off of a CG Accord off of an F20B So that's a slightly deeper pan, a little bit higher oil capacity, so I think it's up to like 4.5 quarts. So that's cool. I'm glad I compared it with the old pan, and it's all exactly the same, has the same features in it from the press that made this pan. So that's all torqued down, ready to go. As you saw, I put the thermostat housing all back together. So yeah, now let's just flip this motor over and start working on the top end. All right, we are all mostly reassembled at this point. Got the timing and balance shaft belts on with new water pump and all the fresh seals I could. Put the cam seals in, the rear cam seal, rear cam plug in. Did the gaskets for the top and cylinder head side of the VTEC solenoid. One of the bolts for that broke on the way out, but luckily the bottom end of it just spun straight out, so I could get it out with my fingers, which is easy. Put the cam girdles back in and retorqued everything in order to actually get to both the cam plug and the seals up ahead. Did the spark plugs. It had brand new plugs in it, but they are one heat range cooler than what I would be running normally. These are 5 heat range. The ones for stock setup are a 6. So just going to make sure we have those. And yeah, looking pretty good at this point. I just threw the exhaust manifold gasket on just to have it on there. Started putting the bits of the intake manifold on, the EGR block off plate. I got to put on the throttle position sensor and replace the broken one and figure out how to calibrate it as well. And then, yeah, gonna get some sleep, but then, yeah, tomorrow just start on the fuel rail here. And then I'm still waiting on my valve cover to come back from powder coating at this point, but luckily for the time being, I can steal the one off the Prelude to use to at least get the car running, which is nice. So yeah, got fuel rail, injectors. Let's see, I have a new PCV valve and grommet here for the valve cover for when that does arrive. Let's see, what else do I need to throw on to the plugs when that goes on? Belts. This is most of the stuff is all car side specific. So okay, yeah, as far as engine, then yeah, okay, just it looks like I have the timing covers to put back on, and And then once the engine comes off of the stand, then we'll do the clutch and flywheel, headers. Yeah, otherwise all went together pretty smoothly. I'm pretty happy with how it went, considering I've worked on this style of engine once already, so most of it was just a matter of working from memory. And so yeah, gonna get some sleep. See y'all tomorrow.
Okay, so some developments while trying to install the Roscoe Racing fuel rail. They gave me 3 of these spacers, like so, and they are about 1/4 of an inch thick or so. However, they give you 3 because I guess they're assuming you're using an H22 lower manifold, which I am not. Therefore, I actually need 1/2 inch worth of spacers. So they only give you 3 of these, and I need 4, essentially, to make this fit, which it otherwise would fit nicely. I just won't use that middle tab on the rail. So I'm going to see what the hardware store might have for me here. All right. Found exactly what I needed, which is really awesome. The width isn't quite the same, but the height is exactly where it needs to be. And I got 2 of them. So we're going to throw these on, see how they work. I think it should be just fine. I was a little worried about the ears on the flange for the fuel rail itself. However, let's see. Yeah, that's an amazing fit, honestly. Wow, hold on a sec. Oh my god. It's actually, look at the clearance between the ID of the Roscoe spacer and on the Ace Hardware spacer. It's a perfect fit over the shank of the studs here. Good. Throw that on. And then it should... Yeah. That seems about right. So, yeah, pressed all of the injector adapters in already. Used Vaseline, the same exact pot of Vaseline I used for the 1UZ injectors like 5 years ago. And, yeah, I'll now just rebuild the RDX injectors with the new seals, Vaseline up the seals, throw them in, and we should be good to go. Okay, so in our injector rebuild kit, we've got, I got to figure out what's in that little capsule. Looks like the little caps for the bottom of the injector. Top seal, bottom seal. Not sure what this is for. Plastic retainer, I'll have to find that. Maybe, oh, that could be the retainer for, oh, I see. It's a retainer for the top basket seals, which then these go underneath here at the very top of the injector. So, that's cool. So we got the top caps, bottom caps, top caps, O-rings, and then let's see what's in here. Oh, it's a tool with like a retractable screwdriver thing. Not quite sure what that's for, but I don't know. I've never used it before. I guess I'll just ignore it for now because all I really need is a pick, some injector cleaner, Vaseline, and then yeah, should be good to go. All right, we have 4 rebuilt injectors. Well, resealed rather. It's an overall very straightforward task. This tool apparently is what helps get the old basket filters out. And you have to screw in the threaded portion into the filter enough and you have to feel it really grab. And then you can unscrew it, retract it back into the tool, and then the lip of this tool will press against the lip of the injector body and pull the basket filter out. So with that, everything else came off really easily, got new seals everywhere, lubed up. So we'll throw that in with the fuel rail now.
Okay, small update. I ended up having to swap these out for some slightly shorter studs. I think they came off my old fuel rail, if I'm not mistaken. I don't actually remember where I got them. But point is, I had slightly shorter studs because the other ones were too long, and I would not have any thread right up to the flange on the Roscoe Racing fuel rail. So now with the shorter studs, the whole thing sits nicely in place. Everything is seated. And yeah, as you can see now, I actually have some thread to put some nuts on here. So I'm going to get that finished up and then move on. All right, and that's about it for the engine rebuild at this time, or reseal and getting it ready to throw into the car. So I've loaded it up on the truck, and I'm going to take it to a garage where I have a little bit more space to do this swap. So I'll see you in the next one.